the New Testament and deal with the words of the Master. We are in the last and final part of the sub-series of the words of the Master from the Sermon on the Mount. The Sermon on the Mount, this is part 7 of a 7-part series of the things that Messiah said during his Sermon on the Mount. We here are going to look at Matthew 7, verses 13, all the way up through chapter 8, verse 1. And also Luke 6, 43 through 49. I think what we'll do here is just look at a few verses at a time. Usually we just read through the whole thing and then come back. I think today we'll just read a little bit at a time. When we deal with the verses that kind of go with each other, you know, from Luke, we'll just read those all together. So we'll start off just by looking at Matthew 7, verse 13 and 14. And we'll talk about that a little bit. Go from there. Matthew chapter 7, verses 13 and 14.
Enter in through the narrow gate, because the gate is wide and broad is the way, and the way is broad. Sorry, my brain is reading KJV style as I'm looking at it, and it's not sorry. And the way is broad that leads to destruction, and there are many who enter through it, because the gate is narrow and the way is hard pressed, which leads to life, and there are few who find it.
Okay, very good. So when we think about Matthew chapter 7, verses 13 and 14, it gives us kind of this, Yeshua here is giving us kind of these opposites here, right? We have this straight gate and this broad way. Right? He's putting these things together, these opposites, these two ways that one can choose, right? One can choose this narrow gate. It's interesting that it's a gate. He's giving you either this gate, which is like an opening, like it's a doorway, right? Or a way. Right, which is kind of, when you think about a broad way, like a way could be like a street, right? It can be like a highway, it can be a road, right? But a gate is just a door, like it's just an opening, right? It's just like a threshold from one place to another. So when you think about it, these really aren't even opposites. I mean, they're kind of different and altogether, right? We could be saying like up and down is opposites, right? Left and right is opposites. These could be the same things, but a gate and a way. Well, let's look at this. I didn't even think about this. Let's look at verse 13 there. What's that word there for? We know straight is something that's narrow. That's something that's not a big place for you to get through. But I want to see what that word for gate is. Gate. What happened to it? There we go. A gate. That is the leaf or wing of a folding entrance. Right? It's just what you think. It's a gate. It's the opening part. Right? And so the gate is wide. right? Enter in through the narrow gate because the gate is wide. And then it says the way is broad, though. So what's that? What's the way? The way is broad. The way is broad. What's that word there? The road. Progress, route, mode, means, etc. So the road and the gate, again, are these two separate things, right? There could be only one gate, right? But there's many roads that go all over the place. And so even if we just think about what is being brought up here, a gate and a way, these things within themselves are kind of giving us what it is that Messiah is dealing with. But he takes it further that the gate is not only just this gate, this entry point, but it's a narrow gate. Mm-hmm. It's a skinny gate. It's a straight gate. What's that word straight over there?
Straight.
What's that say?
Says narrow from obstacles standing close about.
Here, click on that there. Narrow from obstacles standing close. Straight. What's the word study say on that word? Straight.
Word study says.
Because we think about straight as, in our language, straight is like straight. But it don't mean straight. It means narrow. With reference to the gate leading to life, okay? It don't give you much, but we can think about what it is to be narrow.
Because I think about hard. Like it's even if it's like a road, like you're on turnpike and they're doing all that construction work.
And they make the road straight.
They make the road.
When they take away the shoulder.
Take away the shoulder, and then you literally don't have a shoulder, and you got these big trucks, and it's like an obstacle course.
Yeah. When you think about the turnpike and how much focus, when you drive on a regular road that has a shoulder and two lanes, I've taken 2-hour trips, and in that trip, when I get in the car, I almost feel like I'm on autopilot and I can just go to where I'm going and don't even think about it. Like if I don't have like straight ways to get on, right? When the road really is broad and, clear with lots of room on the sides, you can get in the car and next thing you know, you're where you're going. You're not even really thinking about it. But when that road is made straight, you get rid of the shoulder and you really have to concentrate. You really got to focus in on what you're doing. You really got to pay attention to you're driving, right? There's like your mind is involved in the situation.
Judgments on how much space is between you and the next person, and even if because it might not even be you, it might be the next person that's coming over to where you're at.
I'll never forget last year when we went to the youth conference and we were driving and I didn't have any windshield wiper fluid and the roads was terrible and I couldn't see. So my vision was straight because I had this little bit of space that I could see through my windshield.
You got some bottled water.
We had to pull over and pour water on the windshield to clean it, and it only didn't even last
Didn't
that
we do
long.
that too? Yeah, you probably don't remember it, but we had to do something like that. I think we just poured the fluid.
It was terrible. It was a terrible experience, but I'm able to understand straightness, and not straight like in a straight line, but a narrow way that you're traveling upon. Even when you just think about the words that the master is saying over here, it helps you to understand there's a way that's very narrow. That way leads to life. The other way, that you can just get on and be on autopilot and just go and don't even think about it, which is almost the default way. The default way that you don't have to think about, there's no stress involved, you just get on there and go. It's very hard to crash because there's so much room on either side. That way's easy, and it leads to death.
Can I add to?
Go ahead.
Well, what are we still on verse 13?
Yeah, that's it.
I think.
Well, you can add 14 if you want.
Because Shula, my sister Shula said, there is a broad and a narrow gate. So we're still talking about the wide.
Yeah.
Yeah, we still talking about the wide gate.
What did she say?
No, she was just basically reminding that, you know, if you keep going in verse 14, it says because the gate is narrow
Yeah.
and the way is hard pressed. I'm just saying, like, we didn't get to that part yet, right?
No, go ahead.
I'm about to go to, all right, which leads to life. And there are few who find it. So now we about the wide way. A wide gate fits a lot of people at one time.
Yeah.
You go to a place where, you know, now for instance, like coming in this building, you gotta open the door. We got a lot of people, you gotta go one at a time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Follow.
but Most High made it up that way. He made it this way. Now Hiskey, do you have AirDrop on? I'm gonna see if I can.
This one of mine.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you this photo to put up there real quick. What is it? Photos. Okay, so let me see. Send.
While you're looking for that, we're seeing the comments over here. Let's see what that, put that up there, what that, there's a, there is,
Oh, send that to the other one.
when the gate is narrow, you have to watch your gate. Put that up there, put that on there while you getting that together. Because a gate, a gate, G-A-I-T, is how you walk. You have to watch your gait when the gate, you know, being somebody who's kind of, you know, who's bigger, a narrow gate, sometimes you got to turn your body to get through it. You can't just walk regular how you would just normally walk. You got to kind of adjust yourself to the gate to get into it. Which is interesting when you think about what it is that the master is speaking about here, because this narrow way is different. And you have to really adjust to it in order to enter into it. Right? And so, did you get that up there or what?
You gotta change your body around.
Yeah.
You gotta change how you gotta suck
Is this
in
a
some
picture
air.
here?
Got it, yep. So it's kind of scary, but
Make that, maximize that so we can see that there. There you go.
but in computers, this is known as a logic gate. And when a logic gate, you got the A and B side with the two prongs, which basically are a decision. You have two decisions that this gate has to make. For instance, all these computers and devices are made up of billions of these called logic gates. And to get to what you see for all the different processes that they're able to do, they have to determine what is going on. That's where the programming comes in. Each little device, to make your screen run, to make the speakers work, to make how fast it refreshes, all the cameras, they all have their own logic gates. Now, when I seen that scripture, it's very interesting to me because it's hard. It talks about how it's hard pressed, and I immediately thought about the mind. Because also too, if you look at these logic gates, and you research, study a little bit of neurology with the brain, with the synapses and all that stuff, it's literally the same way. That's literally how they model computers, and that's how I was able, when I started looking at neurology, it made sense to me because it's exactly how they made these microprocessors. So all that to say, not to get too crazy on it, but narrow is the gate, and like I said, this is called a logic gate. And so when you come into the Most High, all your thoughts, what makes a person up is the decisions that you make, how you operate. And so coming to this gate is narrow because you got to shut off what you think you know, whatever. And it says few people who are willing to kill that old man. That's part of that, killing that old man. You a new person. You don't, you come to the Most High not knowing nothing. And this word is your new knowledge base. Few people are able to do that. So I just wanted to draw that parallel because this is exactly what they use in computers. It's a logic gate.
So it's bringing those two things together.
Yeah.
The A and the B.
Yep.
Being brought together, but it comes in one way and it comes out a different way, right?
Right. Well, see, right there, this is.
Oh, yeah.
It can be depicted multiple ways because you would say, if you flip it around, an input comes in, and this particular schematic would have to give an A or a B, okay? Which is you as a person, something happens to you around you. You have a choice of how you're going to react to it. Am I going to get upset? Am I going to stay calm? Am I going to do this? Am I going to do that? Everything is based on logic in your life. It's an A-B. It's A-B. Every step of the way.
Yeah.
And this is exactly how computers are set up. And then our brain is set up exactly the same way. So now we come to that straight gate. Now we got to narrow our gates because now instead of having these wide options of things we can do, we got to narrow our options with the scripture.
Yeah.
The scriptures is now that's our boundary. That straight road, if you're going down that straight road, you can only go so far before that you run out of road, and now you're doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Yeah.
That's a really good analogy.
Yeah. And so when you think about what Yeshua's talking about over in terms of entering in through the straight gate, he's telling the people that you have to enter in through the straight gate. He don't necessarily tell you here what the straight gate is. We know because we've seen this already, but we know what it is. But he don't say what it is necessarily, but he do say that the straight gate leads to life though.
Yeah.
Okay? And so, again, when you think about it, if you know that one way goes to life, and the other way goes to death and destruction, it's kind of making it easy for you, isn't it?
It do.
What, did you have something?
I was thinking about what this young man had just said a few minutes ago. I've always, when I read this, I'm from a farm. When you look at a gate, and when they're saying gate and hard pressed and a narrow gate, when you have cattle, and you are steering your cattle, and you're trying to get those cattle branded, you're not bringing them through the wide gate, because they're all coming, and they're going to be jumping all over the place. So you're putting up the little steers that keep them going in the straight. It is narrow, because it's narrow to just hold that one cow that's coming through. It allows them to come through one at a time. So then you can grab it, tie it, throw it down, brand it, let it go. Whereas if you bring them all in, like when you corral cows and you bring them in from the fields, you're just opening up the big gate, everything. Everybody that was out here that's following is coming in. So yeah, that gate is wide, so everything is coming in with it.
Yeah.
But once you put them in those stirrups, they can only come in one at a time. Plus, plus the hard presses on the side of the stirrups. Because if you go over here, you're gonna get crumbs, it's gonna make you come back. So those are those hard press things, and those hard press things are life issues.
Yeah.
So that straight gate for me are those cows, because remember, these are sheep herders. They're gonna understand what he's talking about, hard press and that narrow gate.
Yeah.
Because they're certainly not branded sheep out like this. They never catch them.
Yeah.
So you gotta bring them through the narrow gate. Anything you're herding, you're gonna put them in those narrow gates, because that's the only way you can contain them
Yeah.
and show them how you want them to go. If not, they're just gonna be all over, you're gonna be out there for 9 days, just trying to brand 25 cows.
Yeah.
I think it's about like at Zion, when they had those little gates, little, with the cows in the back, but, you know, the gate to get back there was only but still big, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those cows are still getting out.
Yeah.
They're still getting
When you think about the imagery that Messiah is bringing forth, the fact that this way that leads to life is not the easy way. There's a lot of people that find the other way, that go the other way, but there's only a few that find this narrow way, this straight way, this difficult way.
I think you have to be led too. I don't think you just out here. I was always taught, he calls you, you answer his call to accept his way or not. You don't know when it's that little inclination is put in your head. These are children walking around here, they're hearing. You don't know when it's put in your head, but the seed is being planted. You don't know when it's gonna come to fruition,
Yeah.
but it's planted, seeds grow. Somewhere, you may not be around them when they grow, but they're gonna grow, whether it's a weed or whatever, it starts as a seed. So you don't know when it's gonna come to fruition, and that waiting part, that's a lot of work. When he calls you, you're gonna either accept or you're trying to run from it. You know, running is what's gonna lead you into that wide gate. And
Yeah.
again, back to the cows. If you leave them out there in a herd and you're trying to get them all in a herd, everybody's running everywhere. But if I call you, just like those sheep, they know their master's voice. So you're trying to follow it, but you're not expecting it to be this little narrow thing.
Yeah.
But I think that they understood. I think that we lose sight. That's why we need the concordance. Because when he's speaking, to me, everything in the word, he's comparing man to sheep. And if you're ever around any real sheep and they're around their shepherd, you can call them sheep all day long. They're not coming to you because they do recognize their shepherd's voice. And he always says in the word, my sheep know my voice.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they do, they're not gonna follow you, not like a goat to go anywhere. But a sheep, a goat, it'll eat up everything, you can see them anywhere. But a sheep is very particular. It is not his master's voice, that's why they don't get out the road. Because they don't hear their master's voice, they hear horns and all of that stuff. But the minute they hear their master's voice, they'll move. But they'll just be all in the road, and you just be stuck there trying to go around and stuff, because they're not going to answer to your voice. They're not going to budge. And that's how for me, I see scripture with those sheep. I always have, ever since I was a kid, because I can see the relationship with the sheep and the cattle, because it's like we're his flock, and he's like, we're going to organize you now. All right, I called you. Are you going to come? If you're going to come, you're going to find his way. He didn't say it was going to be an easy way for you to find. He tell you it's hard pressed.
Yeah. Yeah. When we look at these verses over here, the verses really is, there's an invitation, there's a calling involved in it, right? Because 13, he's saying this is the way, enter in through the narrow gate. And he tells you why you should enter in through the narrow gate, right? And so you have this invitation here that he's offering here to these people at this Sermon on the Mount. When we think about Messiah in general, you know, he's speaking to the agricultural references and you know the way that he's talking, because this is the people that he's talking to, right? So he's talking to the people in a way that they can understand. And so yes, they the people, they definitely understand these references because this is the life that they live. We, us city folk, when we think about these things, we have to do research and find out about all of these things because we used to all this brick and concrete everywhere, and we don't know anything about these references. But one thing that we can say when we look at these, which really is kind of self-explanatory, is the fact that the way that he is inviting is a narrow way. The way that he is discouraging the people from going into is a broad way that leads to destruction. Look, let's see that word destruction there, what that is before we go through verse 15. What's that word there for that leads to destruction? You could probably just click on it. We don't. Well, what is it? What is that word? Interesting. Yeah. Ruin, loss. That's interesting. Let's scroll down there. Ruin, loss, physically, spiritually, eternal destruction, die, perdition, pernicious ways, waste. Right? So there's nothing good about this, right? And so, when we think about the way that Yeshua is promoting over here, it should really help us to understand that this isn't the popular way. It's not the popular way. It's not the most, it's not the convenient way. It can't be the way that everybody's following. It can't be the way that everyone's following. Right? Because he said there's only a few that find it. And there's many who enter into the way that leads to destruction, but there's only a few that find this way that's unto life. And so when I see something that everyone's doing, that to me causes me to be cautious. I don't like that thing that everyone's doing. Something's wrong with that. Even if it looks right, I got to be leery about it because everybody's doing it. Why is it so, it's got to be, you know what I mean? Like this, I can't just because everyone's doing it. For many people, because everyone's doing it. For many people, that's a reason to do it too. But for me, it's like I got to wait a second. Is this something that I should be doing?
I already label it as wrong.
Just from the door.
I gotta investigate it. I already know.
Yeah.
Because people don't flock to good. Masses of people don't flock to good.
No.
It's nowhere set up anywhere that you see that. So if anything people flock to, it's already wicked in my head till I investigate.
Yeah.
Yep.
You got a comment in here.
Put that up on the thing.
Says, His ways and commandments are not grievous.
Click on that so it could be up on the thing.
Perhaps it is the external influences of the broad way that make the narrow way hard to find, like a VIP entrance in a crowded place.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we just read in that previous passage talking about how the spirits was quenched for the slavery and that's part of they couldn't
Yeah.
find a way.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah, his ways and commandments are not grievous in that when through the Ruach HaKodesh, it causes us to be able to do these things.
Right.
But that's not to say that Yeshua said himself that the way, there's few that find this way. And this way, he's saying that this way is in fact hard pressed. Example, when you think about just this life that we live. I live, the work that I do, they want you many times to work on Saturdays. And they make it more profitable for you to do so. Some places, they try to, you can't not do it. And so, in that respect, there are more obstacles placed in your way when you seek to live a life that honors the set apart day that the Most High had created.
It's a fact.
Now, are you able to defeat that adversity? Yes. But is there adversity? Yes. And so can that at times, be something that's difficult for you? Yes, absolutely. But it's not too hard for you to do it. You're able to do it. It'll make a way, in fact, when you do it. And so it's not grievous because you're able to walk through the adversity. But do you have adversity though?
And gotta be willing to go through the adversity. A lot of people go there and see the adversity and be like, oh no.
I ain't doing that. I
That-
gotta get paid. My babies need something. My babies gotta eat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so his ways for you aren't grievous, but the world puts obstacles in your way that make it so that when you interact with the world, which we all must interact with the world, there's adversities that we face.
Right.
And this is part of this narrow way. It's part of the narrow way. If we lived in a world that we was able to just be exclusive unto ourselves, now I don't got to deal with the world. Now, when I take the world totally out of the picture, I don't know how exactly you do that, but when you take the world all the way out of the picture and you're just you're living inside of your bubble that's just operating according to the Most High in His ways, maybe that way is easy.
A little easier.
But you're only saying it's easier because you're thinking about the fact that you can't escape what's outside of the bubble, though. There's always the world that you have to interact with in some way, and that's the part that makes it difficult.
Yeah.
But if we were somehow to be disconnected, now you separate yourself from that adversity. But Messiah, what he's saying over here, he understands. We're in this world, but we're not of the world. You gotta give Caesar what's his. And we live in this world where we gotta interact with the world. So that part causes that gate to be smaller because your interaction you know, is a big, with the world is a big part of your existence.
Right.
All right, let's keep on going. We could talk about this forever.
Yeah.
Read 15 through 20. Read 15 through Matthew 7, 15 through 20, and then also read Luke 6, 43 through 49. Because they go with each other.
Okay. Matthew 7:15. But beware of the false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are savage wolves. By their fruits you shall know them. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes, or figs from thistles? So every good tree yields good fruit, but a rotten tree yields wicked fruit. A good tree is unable to yield wicked fruit, and a rotten tree to yield good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. So then, by their fruits you shall know them.
Mm-hmm. And Luke 6, 43 through 45.
For a good tree does not yield rotten fruit, nor does a rotten tree yield good fruit. For each tree is known by its own fruit. For they do not gather figs from thorns, nor do they gather grapes from a bramble bush. The good man brings forth what is good out of the good treasure of his heart. And the wicked man brings forth what is wicked out of the wicked treasure of his heart. For out of the overflow of the heart his mouth speaks.
Okay, very good. So out of the abundance, wow.
I know, right?
Out of the abundance of a man's heart does he speak. It's interesting when you think about, you know, people talk about this thing called a Freudian slip.
Yeah.
Right, a Freudian slip. You say something, maybe without thinking about it, it may not have been the most politically correct thing to say at the time, but for some reason you said it. For some reason you said it. Yeshua said, out of the abundance of one's heart does a man speak. If you say something, you meant to say it. That was what was in your heart.
Yeah.
And that's why it came out.
Right.
It was inside of you. And, you know, you got a little too comfortable. And it just came out like that. Right? And so that goes along with what Yeshua is talking about over here. An apple tree is going to produce apples. Right? An apple tree is going to produce apples. Whatever this thing is, it's going to bear fruit that agrees with what it is. And so when we look at individuals long enough, if you look at individuals long enough, you're able to know what kind of tree it is, whether it's a good tree or a bad tree.
Yeah.
Why? Because of its fruits, the fruits that it bears. Yeshua's, he put forth this formula that we can believe. A good tree gonna make good fruit. A bad tree gonna make bad fruit. A good tree's not gonna make bad fruit. And a bad tree's not gonna make good fruit. That's what he said. And so we're able, you know, I always think about when we was in, was we in Jamaica when we were sitting under that tree, or Barbados?
Which one?
I know we was when we sitting under the tree on the beach
Barbados.
in Barbados on our honeymoon. We're sitting under this tree that looks like a crabapple tree. I'm saying crab apples because in my neighborhood when I was a kid, there was crab apples all over the place in the neighborhood, right? All over the neighborhood had crab apples, trees. And so I thought I knew what an apple looked like, based on the fact that I grew up seeing them grow in. They were plenteous throughout the neighborhood. I don't know how early you came over there, but did they have crabapple trees? Okay, so that was the thing. And so we're on this beach, we're sitting there enjoying the Shabbat, and we're sitting under this tree that looks like, to me, it looks like a crabapple tree. And so I got one. I got one in my hand. And I'm gonna eat it. I'm gonna eat this fruit. It looks like an apple to me, why can't I eat it? Until this local person comes down and he's looking at us, and he comes by looking at us like we shouldn't even be under the tree, let alone taking the things and trying to eat the
You
things.
said we. I didn't taste that apple.
Well, I'm saying I had it. I wanted to eat it. I wanted to eat the thing because of how it looked. It had a look, to me, looked like a crab apple, which, you know, they're good. But this thing, he's saying, is poisonous. So he takes the thing and cuts it, and then it's like milky stuff comes out. And so things that are milky, typically, you're not supposed to eat.
You would have been.
I don't know anything about it. You know, to me, I see something that's growing. This is fruit. But this thing is, I don't know if it's poisonous, like kill me poison, but it probably would have made me sick.
Yeah.
But the point is that I'm looking at this thing, and from just external observation of the thing, it seems right and good. But upon further investigation, I would have quickly found out
You would have spit that thing out.
that this thing was bad. And it would have been impossible for that thing to produce something that wasn't bad. It could only bring forth something that was bad. And so he's giving you these jewels. He's talking about trees and fruit, but he's talking about people. If we go back to Matthew, he's talking about people. In Matthew 7 and 15, he starts out talking about these false prophets. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they're savage wolves. And then he starts talking about fruit. By their fruit, you'll see them. By whose fruit? The false prophets' fruit. And so I'm saying, how? He's given us these instructions, beware of false prophets. But how though? Because if we're thinking about false prophets, I can't know that this false prophet is false prophet unless I deal with him for a little while to even understand that he's false. I mean, sometimes it could be an immediate thing, but sometimes it might take a little while. He said, beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing. The prophet looks agreeable. The prophet looks like he's good. But how am I supposed to know that he ain't good unless I investigate? I guess I got to investigate first, huh? What are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? He's saying beware, but I'm saying how though? How do you beware? How you do it?
It's what they say, what they do.
I know, but I'm saying that he said the things that he's saying might be part of his sheep's clothing and even doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like his sheep's clothing is that he's appearing to be right.
Right.
But how, without some type of investigation, do I even know?
Or like a litmus test.
I gotta do a test, right?
Yeah.
Someone said they're a prophet, my antennas go up right away. So I'm already, like, being aware, like, the next word is
You can't just believe. You can't just believe just because somebody comes along and says it. You can't just believe. You gotta see some fruit,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? You gotta see some characteristics. Is this piece of fruit that he got? It look like a crab apple, but is it really milky inside, or is it juicy and sweet? Like, how do you know? Somebody said ask questions. So you're automatically skeptical? You're automatically skeptical?
Yeah.
And research, all these.
Because you don't know till you know.
Yeah.
You can be, somebody on the street can just give me general information. They're not going to give me something that changed my life unless they're saying something that I know about. Because truth recognizes truth. You know what I'm saying? The truth is truth. Or if I don't know you and you saying something, all right, I'm going to look into it. I ain't taking this serious. So it's like you give a person only so much leeway to affect you so much until you know them.
Yeah.
You don't give them too much.
So you gotta be. You saying you gotta be skeptical?
You have to. That's part of life. It's part of being wise. Be skeptical until you know. Like the scriptures, like in Proverbs, all you get understand. Until you understand exactly, you can't be sure. You can't be definitive.
Yeah.
Tell you to try every spirit.
Yeah, try every spirit.
Yeah. To me, I feel like if he's saying beware of false prophets, then you have to be skeptical.
You have to.
You gotta be. You gotta be out the gate. To prophet so and so come along, just because he says whatever that says Yahweh. Did he say it though? Let me see how that lines up with what the scripture says.
Yep.
Because that's what it is, because aren't we supposed to have some kind of semblance of what it is that we believe in? So we can then say to them, where did you get this from?
Right.
You know, what reference material are you using so that I can check?
You saying something right there.
Yep.
And so it's important then, right, that we are able to have some type of an understanding. If he's saying beware of false prophets, then without saying that, he's also saying that there is something that you got to be able to know if the person's false or if he isn't false. Because he could really be somebody who is really trying to devour you.
Yep.
Because that's what the wolf gonna do. Right? What is this person's intentions here? When you think about these teachers and people who are supposed to be the men of the Most High, you know, what is their motives, right? What are their intentions? When Yeshua comes on the scene, his message is repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And so are we able to look at people and see what their intentions are, or are they like doing some business? Like, is this like a business that we doing over here?
Or they prophesying you gonna get a Mercedes Benz.
Right, when you have these types of things, like what's the why though? Like, how does that expand the kingdom for me to get a Mercedes Benz? Does that expand the kingdom? So if somebody's prophesizing this, you know, why? What's that mean? Like, and so we have to really be like that about these things. When you think about, especially when Yeshua is sitting up here talking about this idea of bewaring. Like, you've got to beware, but the only way that you're able to beware, like if someone's coming along behaving and pretending to be sheep and he's a wolf, it's necessary for each and every one of us to understand what a sheep look like. It's necessary for each and every one of us to understand the characteristics of a sheep so that we're able to know when somebody comes in impersonating a sheep, we're able to say, you're not a sheep, you're a wolf. You're not here to help me, you're here to eat me.
Cause I feel like a wolf can learn a little bit about like the sheep ways, but eventually you're gonna slip. Eventually you're gonna say something that sounds like a wolf.
Yeah.
A sheep ain't supposed to sound like a wolf, so a sheep gonna be consistently sounding like a sheep. A wolf gonna slip up and gonna say something.
You making me think about like cartoons.
Yeah,
Like, when you look- watch the
that's exactly
cartoons,
what's in my head.
When the wolf, like he put on the sheep clothes and he go and hang out with the sheep. And eventually when he start hanging around with the sheep, like his mouth start watering.
Yeah, his tail hanging
And
out.
he can't like, the next thing you know, he's in there biting one, trying to eat it. Like he can't even be around the sheep too long before he tries to devour the thing.
Right.
And so eventually his natural instincts and characteristics are going to surface. But again, there has to be that level of understanding that we have within ourselves to be able to know the characteristics of a sheep. If we put that together with 13 and 14, eventually we have to be able to know what the narrow way, what the narrow gate looks like. We got to know the difference between the narrow gate and the broad way. We have to be able to differentiate between the way that leads to death and a way that leads to life. Or else we're going to accidentally get on the wrong path and be going in the wrong direction, when meanwhile we were supposed to be going in the way that the Most High invited for us to be. And all of this goes, he gives us all of the tools, right? The thing eventually is going to expose itself because it is what it is. If it's good tree, it's going to make good fruit. You can't have somebody who is saying that they're working for the Most High and the things that it's doing looks like the world.
And that's the beware. That's that beware part. That's what you're looking for. You're waiting for this person or false prophet to reveal itself. Don't get too comfortable.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'm cracking up at somebody talking about nothing wrong if you happen to have a Mercedes.
You know why?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with Mercedes.
Nothing
all right?
intrinsically wrong with having a Mercedes.
But in all that honesty, he tells you to seek him first.
That's
The
right.
kingdom,
That's
and
right.
all these other things will be added. He knows what your heart's desires are. So you're not gonna tell me that I'm not gonna have a BMW in about 2 years. He said, seek first ye
Yeah,
the kingdom,
right,
all my other heart's desires will be added. So diligently seeking, I believe, he said, believe, I believe that the things that I want,
That's right.
you know, he knows whether I need them. Doesn't mean I won't stop wanting them, but I do believe that following his way to give me some of my heart's desires.
Yes, absolutely, that's
I
true.
believe that with all my heart.
Just imagine, like you wanting to hear from the master, and then a prophet comes to you, and the words from the master is, "You gonna get a Mercedes Benz?" You know how disappointed that would be? Like what? Like he sent you to me to tell me I'm gonna get some
Material.
vanity.
Material
I'm not
items.
saying that anybody who has a Mercedes Benz, you know, but I'm just saying it would be so disappointing to hear.
Yeah, because you would want to hear something you would think that would be substantive, like something that's like,
It's gonna feed me.
yeah,
me.
right.
But who's to say that isn't substantive to that person? And who's to say that our God doesn't know that it's substantive? He's answering
Yeah.
that person's need,
Yeah.
not what you think is.
I think when you think about like needs, like you may need a running, problem-free vehicle. I don't know if you need a top of the line.
But that's just a preference.
I understand. I understand
He said, the
completely.
scripture says seek ye first the kingdom, and all the other desires of your heart will be added.
The thing that verse is talking about, the things that's listed there are really basic needs like food, clothing, and shelter.
Transportation has become a basic need in this life.
Oh.
The level of transportation
It's a whole other thing.
is what you're talking
Right.
about.
I'm just talking about when he says all these things will be added unto you, it's basic, your basic needs. He talks about the fact that the birds don't gotta worry about what they eat. They don't have these things. Seek you first the kingdom of heaven and all these things is food, clothing, and shelter. Where you're gonna live at, how you gonna eat, you know, what you're gonna put on your physical body. These other things, not to say that the Most High won't provide these things for you, but they're really they're icing, really. It's really,
Amenity.
huh?
It's an amenity.
It's amenities, right? It's like it's extras. Like it's
Isn't that what he's saying when he says that he will give you the desires of your heart?
well.
So some of your desires of your heart may be some of
Well,
those
we
things.
talked a little bit about last week when we were thinking about the fact that the Most High, the things that He's giving you, also have to line up with His will, though. And so He's not gonna give you necessarily, because you think about Paul. I'm sure it was the desire of Paul's heart for whatever that thorn was to be removed. I'm sure that was the desire of his heart for whatever that was, for it to be removed. But it was never removed. But he still was someone who did the work of the master. But at the same time, he didn't have all of the things necessarily that he wanted. But he did have all of that. I'm pretty sure that Paul never wanted to be in jail. I'm sure that it was the desire of his heart to live a life and not have people trying to kill him everywhere he went, like safety. Like I'm sure safety was high on the list of things that he desired in his life. Safety. That man wasn't never safe.
But he was also persecuting the righteous, so I feel like that was part of his balancing out the life he probably lived. You got a tag.
Did he want that though?
And
He
say yes.
he wanted Messiah.
Yeah.
He wanted to expand the kingdom, and
Initially he did.
that's the cost.
And then initially, wasn't Paul who was going around killing them all?
No, well,
He wasn't walking in the way?
I'm talking about Reformed Paul, not the old Paul. Yeah.
Well, I'm talking about the whole thing, because if we're talking about what my wants and my desires are, and my desire to do those things, he knows my wants and desires.
Yeah.
So he's gonna protect it and straighten it out whether or not I'm gonna get it. But Paul, he knew Paul's, if he's our Messiah as the same Messiah, is one and the same, didn't he know his wants and desires as well?
Yeah, but he didn't meet them all.
Exactly. I don't think he's gonna meet all of mine.
Yeah, that's
He
what I'm
knows
saying.
what I need, I know what I want.
Yes, exactly.
So it's the same thing.
So you might not necessarily need the top of the line.
I may not, sound like my son, but
You sat up there and y'all blessed you with what you.
I didn't ask for it though.
there was a desire of your heart. You yacked, that's all.
It kinda
I'm
was.
saying. I mean,
It kinda
just get
was.
mine like that. You
And
know?
I'm saying that I want that for you. But all I'm saying is that what we can't do is, because sometimes when we want something so bad, not saying that you do, but I'm saying in general speaking, when we want something so bad, we put too much on the thing that
Becomes
we
an
want.
idol.
It turns into something else.
Can be, yeah.
Right? Well, not to say that we can't have all of the things that we want outside of what we actually need.
Mm-hmm.
But when we put too much on those things, it moves them into a space where it borders on something else. So the Most High most definitely can give us all kinds of things. But I think the point of the verse that you was alluding to is the fact that when we're moving in a particular direction and our focus is on the direction that we're moving, these things come along and they're added, but it's not because I'm looking for that thing. It's because that's just a result of me walking in righteousness. And so I'm not even thinking about it, even though I used to kind of want this.
Yeah.
But now I'm moving in this direction, and then wow, this opportunity
comes
came
along.
up for me to have this thing.
Right.
Praise the Most High. All praises.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, let's keep on going so we can finish up here. Let's drop down to Matthew 7:24 through 27.
Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and does them shall be like a wise man who built his house on a rock. And the rain came down, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, and it did not fall, for it was founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them shall be like a foolish man who built his house on sand. And when the rain came down, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and they beat on the house, or that house, and it fell, and great was its fall.
Okay, put with that also Luke, what is it? Chapter 6, 46 through 49.
But why do you call me Master, Master, and do not do what I say? For everyone who is coming to me and is hearing my words and is doing them, I shall show you whom he is like. He is like a man building a house who dug deep and laid a foundation on a rock. And when the flood came, the stream burst against that house, but was unable to shake it, for it was founded on a rock. But the one hearing and not doing is like a man who built his house on the earth without a foundation, against which the stream burst, and immediately it fell, and the ruin of that house was great.
Okay, very good. Let's go up to 46 here. This is something that we think about in terms of things that the Messiah has spoken. We think about the idea why you call me master and do not do what I say. We think about Yeshua as master, as Lord. You can't have a master that is not the ruler of you, because he's, by definition, that's not your master, right? Your master is the controller of you.
Let me say this. Your master is the foundation of all your intentions.
That's profound.
That's the.
Hold on, say that again.
Your master is the foundation of all your intentions. So that's why I always talk about, I always say a person's intentions tell you who they are, what they are, who they're serving. I can tell who they would. You just go a couple questions down, you ask them, why you do that? What are you doing this for? And they'll reveal themselves, whether righteous, whether a good tree or a wicked tree.
Yeah.
Because what would depend on their answer, what type of fruit are they sowing or gleaning from? What are they sowing? Whatever their answer is, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, and Yeshua is bringing this idea and putting it all the way in the front and helping us to understand that there is a connection between the things that we say and do. If we say that we are in fact followers of the Master Yeshua, that he is in fact our master, then the things that he say, that's the things that we're supposed to be doing.
Yep.
The things that we're doing must in fact correlate with the things that he has said. And so and when we think about the idea of trees and fruit now, if in fact someone says that they are a follower of Messiah, but their life goes against what it is that the master has said, then that person is in fact a liar. And it's just as simple as that.
Simple.
We're able to easily look at someone and know whether or not Messiah is their master or not. We're able to easily look at somebody and know what type of tree that person is, whether it's good or bad, by simply knowing, do they follow after what the master has said. And I think sometimes now we get into these situations where we don't actually know what the master said. Well, some people don't know what he said. And so they're doing things and living a particular way because of their perception of what they think the master has said.
Interpretation.
And their interpretation, which can be problematic, which goes back to the previous part where he talks about the false prophets or the false teachers, the people who are supposed to be leading the people, that we have to beware, because there's people out here leading the people astray and allowing for them to understand a version of the master that is diluted, to say the least. Yes.
Perverted.
Or perverted, yeah. And so, it's important for us. Hold on, what verses did we read here? 24? Oh man, we skipped something over there. But let's continue talking about this, because it's important for us to be able to understand that there must be a correlation between our lives, the things that we say and the things that we do, with what it is that Messiah says that we're supposed to be saying and doing.
Real quick, I can tell how much a person know the book by how they talk and what they do. After you study the book, you know who is of the Most High and who isn't. I see people lesser than me. I see people greater than me. I'm like, oh, this person's real good at that. You can tell they either are blessed with the ability or worked on it, and vice versa. So,
yeah. And so, Yeshua, as he's going down here, he talks about this idea of a foundation being laid, right? He's talking about this foundation being laid. And he begins about this idea of building this house, right? What this house is being built on. And this foundation that's on rock, right? This foundation that will withstand winds and rains, right? The foundation that he's speaking about is itself, right? He's speaking about his own self. He's speaking about the idea of being sure that we all have a particular foundation laid so that we're able to withstand all of the things that are going to come forth as we continue on this path through this narrow gate. Right, it's more things that are really describing this narrow gate, this narrow way that exists in this world that is contrary to everything around us. But if we have a solid foundation, that foundation being Messiah, when it rains, which is going to rain, when it floods, which it's gonna flood, you're going to be able to withstand the things that are guaranteed to come about. And so we must be, we must have that foundation in place. We skipped over 21. Go back to Matthew 7:21 through 23. Because that goes along with what it talks about in Luke chapter 6 and 46.
Okay.
Matthew 7:21 through 23.
Okay. Not everyone who says to me, Master, Master, shall enter into the reign of the heavens, but he who is doing the desire of my Father in the heavens. Many shall say to me in that day, Master, Master, have we not prophesied in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and done many mighty works in your name? And then I shall declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who work lawlessness.
Okay, very good. So when we think about this idea of being a worker of lawlessness, a worker of iniquity, and he said, I never knew you. Right? It's not like you fell off. It's not like he did know you and then he stopped knowing you. He said, I never knew you. That's interesting. Because the ones that he's talking about is someone who's doing things that look like the things that the people that is his followers is that they do. Right? These people are doing things that's causing them to look like sheep. But really they wolves.
That's right.
So they're going through a particular set of motions. They have a particular set of things that they're doing that looks a particular way. But Yeshua said, so he said all the way up until the place where they meet the master. Which is another interesting part when you think about it. Because how long is these people going and perpetrating the fraud? All the way through. All the way through, it seems. They lived their whole life thinking that they were supposed to be doing, I don't know if they thought it, but looking a particular way to other people. I don't know. I guess they did think it. Didn't I? They're saying, didn't I do this? Many shall say to me in that day. They're saying to Messiah, Master, Master. These are all the things that I did. Here go my sheet, my resume. Here go all the things that I did. And I did it in your name. All of these things. And then he said, I never knew you. And so this when you think about what he said in verse 15 in terms of beware of these false prophets, beware of these wolves in sheep's clothing, again, the same thing is true because these people, when we look at these people over here in Matthew 7 and 21 through 23, the thing that connects them to the people in verse 15 is that the things that they're doing, the fruit of who they are, is different from the fruit that they, because these people obviously seems like they're producing a particular fruit. Right? They're producing a particular fruit. They're prophesizing and they're casting out demons and they're doing mighty works. They have a particular fruit that looks a way. But inside those individuals, the things that they, the way that they live their own particular lives was a whole other thing because they're over here called lawless ones, workers of iniquity. And so their personal situations didn't necessarily correspond with their religious, occupational situation.
But maybe you might not even just have to relegate it or just keep it at their personal when he got to you work as a lawlessness, because he only mentions that, you know, they said they prophesied and they cast out demons. They said they did many mighty works, but that lawlessness part is heavy because, I mean, how many people was really, you know, I guess, I mean, if we look in organized religion, the churches, is really trying to get people back to his laws. Like, the theme today is just go right to the New Testament. You got Jesus, you good. But how you operate, they don't want to get into how you need to operate.
Yeah.
They want to just forgive everything you did and you're doing, but not get specific about, don't do this, don't do that, don't.
Yeah.
Because now that many of the people say, only God can judge me, or this and that. When this is all about judgment,
Yeah.
Judging the spirit.
you judging yourself once you start correcting yourself with this and doing all these different things. And that's that lawlessness. That's what I think that's really,
Yeah.
because you in yourself, you got to start keeping the law. You got to believe it. I believe that these words are true. I believe what the Most High told Moses to do. And did not Yeshua say he came to fulfill it,
Yeah.
not to destroy it? And that's a part that, especially with people, everybody has an opinion. But there should be no opinion on what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
He gave us what's right and wrong.
That's
But now people make opinions on what's right and wrong. There ain't no opinion, we got it. And we don't need to be debating it.
Yeah.
Chris, you want to say?
Yeah, I was gonna say that, you know, the message of the modern church is lawlessness. Is the law is done away with, he nailed it to the cross. We have like, you know, pastors like, you know, T.D. Jakes' recent scandal. You know, he's saying the blood is, well, even if I did do this with little, you know, so-and-so, it's all can be forgiven by the blood. So he's basically saying you can do whatever you want to do. The blood will wash it all away. You know, and so I think that, you know, there are many people that are doing all of these lists of things that it says, but they're preaching lawlessness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think when I look at this, when I look at these verses, it always makes me think about those that they have a particular profession that they're making. I'm saying profession like things that they profess, not profession like the things that they profess that are connected with religiosity, right? But it's perverted. It's a perverted version because Yeshua, first of all, is saying, "I never knew you." So he has never co-signed this
Your actions.
the things that they're doing. He never co-signed it. He said, "I never knew you," and he tells you what it is, that the thing is lawless.
Yeah.
And
so to say, did they ever had a spirit?
they couldn't have, because he
Right.
said, "I never knew you." He said, "I never knew you," and so the
Power in
thing.
name. So they're using the name.
They
for
used the
power.
name to get over.
Yeah, because they were doing things in the name, and so yes, so it's interesting when Yeshua talks about. We'll see later. Yeshua talks to the people who talk about him casting out demons in the name of the devil. But he's saying, when you see me casting out these demons, you saw, paraphrasing, heaven revealed. So when we think about the idea of the Spirit and it moving, you're seeing the power of the manifestation of the kingdom of Elohim. And so that work is going to be done. So people need for they need to receive what it is that the Most High wants for them to receive. And so sometimes it's going to work for the people's behalf through people who, it's like these people who they're using that power, and the people are going to benefit.
Right.
But the users of the power is the ones who he's talking about, right? And so that's the thing. And I'm saying that Yeshua saying all this, it should give people a reason to want to look and inspect in the things that they're following after, to know if it is in fact lawless. If it is in fact, operating off of borrowed power. Because that's what he's talking about over here. He's talking about these people operating off of borrowed power. When he's saying through the Ruach HaKodesh, he's giving us power. He's not lending it to us. These people is like going to the library and checking out some power and using it, right? But they don't actually possess the thing. Okay, what does anybody have any last questions, comments about any of these things before we begin to go ahead and be done here?
Well, I think that goes with the whole building your house on the rock and the sand as well. Borrowing versus, it's yours.
Yeah, right. Yes, and kind of on a end note, Yeshua talks about the foundation. He talks about this rock. If we're able to actually build on the rock, if we're able to actually build on that foundation that is Yeshua. Yeshua talks about the gate. He don't tell you yet that he's the door. He don't tell you yet that he's the life. I mean, we read ahead, we already know. Right? But he don't tell you when he's saying this over in the Sermon on the Mount that he is all of these things. But he's saying, look for these things because these things is the way. Look for the gate. Look for the door. Look for life. Look for the rock. Look for a foundation, because when you build on those things, when storms come, you're good. And so we have to understand that our foundation must in fact be Messiah.
Oh, yeah.
Our foundation has got to be Messiah, and if it is that, we're able to stand every time. And when these things come about that are guaranteed to come, we're always going to be able to stand because we have that foundation.
We got a question pertaining to Matthew 23. Says, is it the same as when the Father said, if you are lukewarm, I will speak you up?
Yes, I would say yes, absolutely. He wants you to be hot or cold. If you're gonna be cold, be cold. Don't be cold with a little bit of warm mixed in with it. A little bit of hot mixed into it. Right? Because that's what lukewarm is. He wants you to be either hot or cold. Because if you're lukewarm, if you're cold with some hot mixed together, he's going to spit you out just like the cold. And so the same thing is true with these people over here who's talking about doing these things. We just found some new things to talk about on this borrowed power that these people are utilizing, this borrowed power. He's saying you need to possess the power and be yours, not get it from the spiritual rent-a-center, but get it from the source, right? And so that you're able to be accepted yourself. Because if you out here using the borrowed power, you might be helping all types of people, but guess who you ain't helping? Number one.